I hold very close to my heart. I saw the devastating effects this disease had on my father and the challenges that came with managing MS at a time when there were no approved treatment options.
Now at the age of 67, the renowned actress has at last shared the private resolution that fundamentally altered the course of her existence. During the zenith of her recognition within the film industry, at a moment when her image was ubiquitous and professional triumph seemed limitless, she undertook an action rarely attempted by those of similar celebrity status. She voluntarily receded from that world, not as a result of career decline or a cessation of opportunities, but due to a conscious prioritization of familial bonds, personal tranquility, and a more measured existence over the persistent glare of public attention. For an extended period, admirers speculated about her disappearance from prominent cinematic parts. Presently, the actuality is being unveiled, illuminating an intensely private verdict that reconfigured both her professional trajectory and personal life in unforeseen manners. The performer entered the world in Los Angeles, emerging from a family background marked by historical depth and contrast. Her maternal lineage was imbued with significant political ancestry tracing back to Costa Rica, where a forebear, Bruno Carranza, had formerly held the presidential office. Her father, descending from Dutch, German, and English stock, originated from Oregon, thereby anchoring the family within a more understated narrative of American life. Her upbringing occurred in Eagle Rock, a community within Los Angeles associated with the working class, where her initial aspiration was entirely separate from performing. Her universe was music. By the age of 10, she had dedicated herself to the objective of becoming a pianist for concert halls, engaging in rigorous practice for countless hours daily. This ambition was abruptly concluded in 1976 following the passing of her cherished teacher. The sorrow from this event was so intense that she silently distanced herself from the instrument, bearing the mourning privately. However, from that personal devastation, a different route gradually materialized. She registered at the University of Southern California, focusing on film and journalism studies, uncertain of the eventual destination. Her initial professional performance occurred in 1980 on the television program Little House on the Prairie, portraying a sightless artist, a nuanced depiction that suggested her underlying capacity for depth. Additional minor parts ensued, humble and largely unremarked upon, yet they signified the commencement of a journey still awaiting its full development. Then the year 1987 arrived, bringing with it a total transformation. The feature film Stakeout emerged as a pivotal moment the industry could not overlook. This comedic action picture partnered the actress with Richard Dreyfuss and Ali Sheedy, depicting two competitive detectives surveilling the same woman and ultimately becoming enamored with her. That woman was Maria, embodied by the performer with a blend of warmth, intelligence, and effortless charisma. The movie achieved substantial financial success internationally, surpassing $100 million in revenue. Crucially, it eradicated any remaining skepticism regarding her capacity for stardom. Her on-screen presence was not merely visually striking, she demonstrated humor, relatability, and a quietly authoritative demeanor. Viewers were captivated during her scenes, and production companies finally recognized her potential. This forward thrust continued into 1980 with Worth winning. She assumed the part of Veronica Briscoe, an astute, orderly, and cerebral concert pianist, opposite Mark Harmon. This character resonated with her own forsaken musical history, introducing a layer of personal reflection. That identical year, she altered direction once more with Revenge, a somber romantic thriller situated within the intense and perilous atmosphere of Mexico, co-starring Kevin Costner. This project unveiled a more shadowy, emotionally intense facet of her cinematic persona. By 1990, she was entering a significant chapter of cinematic history. The Two Jakes, the much-anticipated successor to Chinatown, featured her opposite Jack Nicholson in a neon-lit noir narrative saturated with treachery, homicide, and ethical corruption in Los Angeles following World War II. Her portrayal of a woman entangled in a lattice of yearning and repercussion was understated and controlled, complementing the film's murky atmosphere. She subsequently appeared in Closet Land in 1991, a severe and disquieting drama for two performers opposite Alan Rickman. Devoid of all glamour, she played a writer of children's literature subjected to interrogation by an authoritarian government, accused of embedding subversive concepts within her tales. The film was confined and emotionally charged, and she responded with unrefined and exact emotional depth. That same year introduced Unlawful Entry, a pivotal psychological thriller from the early 90s. As Karen Carr, she and her on-screen spouse, portrayed by Kurt Russell, endure a home intrusion that escalates into profound anxiety and terror. The film's effectiveness depended on the disquieting strain between its principal characters, and her subdued portrayal of fragility rendered the peril acutely tangible. However, the part that permanently established her enduring reputation arrived in 1992 with The Last of the Mohicans, under the direction of Michael Mann. This film was an expansive historical romance set amid the French and Indian War. As Cora Munro, the resolute daughter of a British military officer, she delivered a performance abundant with restraint, bravery, and deep desire. Her chemistry with Daniel Day-Lewis's character Hawkeye was powerful and memorable, building to a final interaction that persists as one of the most emotionally impactful instances in cinema from the 1990s. In 1993, she selected an alternative route with Robert Altman's Shortcuts, a venturesome multi-narrative film interlinking the existences of common individuals in Los Angeles. Appearing alongside a remarkable ensemble, she demonstrated an ability to excel in material focused on atmosphere, persona, and quiet scrutiny. It was a contemplative performance, less concerned with celebrity and more with artistry, revealing the authentic breadth of her versatility. By 1994, she ultimately accepted a role that positioned her unequivocally as the focal point of a significant thriller. Blink afforded her the central position as Emma Brody, a blind musician specializing in Irish folk music, who partially recovers her vision via a corneal transplant, only to witness a murder she may not entirely comprehend. Directed by Michael Apted, the film engaged with themes of perception and memory, as Emma experiences delayed visual processing, occasionally comprehending what she observed hours or days afterward. What might have been a conventional suspense narrative was enhanced by her performance. Reviewers highlighted the quiet fortitude she infused into the role, depicting a woman who was susceptible yet intensely independent, never diminished to a state of incapacity. That same year, she ventured into classic noir landscape with China Moon, a humid, sun-bathed mystery located in a small Florida community. Opposite Ed Harris and Benicio del Toro, she incarnated an alluring and perilous woman caught in a whirlpool of lust and brutality. The film recalled the sensibility of classic Hollywood thrillers, and she executed the part with a sense of doomed certainty, as though the character already understood the story's conclusion. In 1995 came 12 Monkeys, the film that genuinely solidified her position in film history. Directed by Terry Gilliam, this convoluted science fiction thriller necessitated emotional scope and psychological profundity. As Dr. Catherine Rayleigh, a psychiatrist pulled into the horrifying premonitions of a time traveler played by Bruce Willis, she delivered what numerous observers regard as the most exceptional work of her career. She transitioned fluidly from skepticism to compassion, from dread to determination, maintaining a compelling presence alongside Willis and a wildly volatile Brad Pitt, whose own performance received an Academy Award nomination. Within a film overflowing with disorder, she served as its emotional foundation. By the middle of the 1990s, she was not merely accomplished, she was a completely established cinematic star. Periodicals acclaimed her appearance, listing her among the most captivating women in film annals. Years afterward, she would continue to be designated as one of the most beautiful women globally. Nevertheless, behind the radiance of celebrity and acclaim, an internal transformation had commenced. As her profession advanced, she became progressively disquieted by the nature of the characters offered to her, especially those dependent on nudity or recurrent depictions of women as casualties. What previously seemed a standard component of the profession started to feel profoundly intimate. She later contemplated that such decisions exposed how readily women could be substituted, how expendable the industry rendered them. With time, this discontent intensified. Portraying terrified or impotent characters ceased to feel stimulating or significant. It felt void. What she yearned for instead were personas containing contradictions, unpredictability, and imperfections. She noted that male characters in films were permitted to be volatile and intricate, while female characters were frequently confined within narrow archetypes: the romantic partner, the victim, the prize concluding the narrative. This awareness struck at the heart of her growing disillusionment. For an individual at the peak of her renown, departing from that structure demanded lucidity and bravery. And as these misgivings amplified, she had already started constructing something quieter and more lasting beyond the cinema, a life that held greater significance for her than celebrity ever could. In 1982, long before fame achieved its pinnacle, she married fellow actor Brian Benben after a single year of courtship. The couple met during the production of the NBC miniseries The Gangster Chronicles in 1981, and what originated as a connection on set gradually evolved into a lifelong partnership. Within a sector notorious for transient romances and public separations, Their matrimony has persisted for over 4 decades, characterized by constancy rather than public drama. Jointly, they selected an existence significantly distant from Hollywood's perpetual spotlight. Beyond Fredericksburg, Texas, they established and managed an operational cattle ranch. This was not a picturesque getaway or occasional sanctuary, but a labor-intensive enterprise demanding daily dedication. In 1996, their lives transformed once more with the arrival of their daughter, May Theodora Benben, in San Antonio. The experience of motherhood reshaped her sense of meaning in manners the film business could neither provide nor fully comprehend. Confronted with a decision rarely encountered by stars of her stature, she withdrew. There was no formal announcement, no sensational goodbye, merely a private resolution to prioritize her family. Following 12 Monkeys, she progressively retreated from performing, exchanging scripts and soundstages for expansive terrain, duty, and a life rooted in being present rather than public approbation. When she made a brief reappearance on screen in 1998, it was with Playing by Heart, a gentle multi-story drama intertwining themes of love, grief, and human interrelation. Surrounded by a distinguished cast including Sean Connery, Angelina Jolie, Gillian Anderson, and Jon Stewart, she portrayed Gracie, a woman quietly grappling with fissures in her marital relationship. The role felt personal and thoughtful, echoing the more discerning course she had started to pursue. A year later arrived The General's Daughter, a prominent military thriller, opposite John Travolta. As Warrant Officer Sarah Sunhill, a resolute investigator with a complex personal history linked to Travolta's character, she grounded a narrative focused on authority, concealment, and violence inside the military. The film was a considerable commercial achievement, garnering nearly $150 million globally. Yet, even as financial returns increased, her on-screen appearances grew more sporadic and infrequent. Conventional success no longer exerted the same attraction it once possessed. In 2002, she featured in We Were Soldiers, a war drama portraying the first major battle of the Vietnam War, assuming the role of Julie Moore after another performer departed the project. It was a respected film, but by that time, acting no longer felt central to her life. The fervor that once propelled her career had diminished. Years later, the television series Revenge signified an uncommon return to regular employment. From 2012 to 2013, she reportedly earned $75,000 per episode, but the selection was logical for reasons beyond remuneration. Television permitted her to remain nearer to her home, operating within a timetable that accommodated the existence she had established apart from Hollywood. The juxtaposition is notable. During the mid-1990s, she was receiving compensation in the millions and standing at the height of her financial influence. She could have proceeded along that path indefinitely. Instead, she selected something far less conspicuous yet profoundly more stabilizing. She comprehended a truth many never fully realize, that fame and fortune hold little value if they jeopardize one's selfhood. When the work ceases to be challenging, when one is requested to reiterate hollow versions of oneself, when complexity and contradiction are removed, persisting solely for status becomes pointless. Thus, she stepped back, opting for integrity over acclaim. For more than 10 years, she circulated seamlessly within Hollywood's exclusive circles, a participant in the festivities and the machinery. Then, almost imperceptibly, she departed. There was no controversy, no theatrical exit, no resentful adieu. She simply receded. She had entered the arena, examined what the industry was prepared to offer, and gradually acknowledged its confines. During her period, the opportunities accessible to women, particularly women defined by their beauty, were restricted and repetitive. Depth was reserved for others. She was too frequently categorized as the casualty, the romantic interest, the graceful figure rather than the entirely complex human being she desired to represent. Therefore, she chose something scarcer than fame: serenity. At the climax of her career, when she could have continued to secure major roles and substantial earnings, she decided her life away from the lens was more important. She desired to be present with her family, to nurture her daughter, and to live a rooted existence alongside her husband, Brian Benben. Together they withdrew to their working ranch in Texas, trading premieres and red carpets for open land, routine, and quiet intention. In an industry constructed upon relentless pursuit, she ceased chasing. For more than 40 years, she has remained wedded to the same partner, a nearly unprecedented accomplishment in Hollywood, and has passed the last 2 decades far from the clamor of celebrity culture. While the trade thrives on maintaining performers in a state of hunger and perpetual striving for the next opportunity, she had already discerned what genuinely provided fulfillment. She did not wish to expend her life validating her worth within a system that increasingly made her feel replaceable. Yet, she never vanished entirely. In recent years, she has returned selectively, most notably with a part in the series Welcome to Derry, re-entering the spotlight on her own conditions. The distinction now is evident. She no longer belongs to Hollywood. She visits it. And within a town propelled by ego, aspiration, and incessant demand, withdrawing at the peak of renown to select love, peace, and self-respect may represent the most potent character she has ever performed.